So, we are back again once more. This time it's the book called The Pearl. Anup is with me here yet again, and we have a special guest here, Salina. Hi guys, how are you?
Hi,
Looks like
I'm good.
there's some technical problem in Anup's side.
Yeah,
And
I think he's frozen. Yeah.
so we thought we would invite a guest today, have a bit more diverse participation. It's otherwise always a sausage fest here. So we have Salina, who also participated in reading this book for the last week, and we thought it's a perfect time to have a different voice that can give a bit of input in this topic. Anup is back. Hi, Anup. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you guys?
I was telling our viewers that today we are going to have a bit of diversity of opinion, and
Hmm.
Salina, who also participated in the book last week, is going to join us. And yeah, maybe Salina, maybe you can give your first impression about the book, how you found it, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy to be here for this week. And personally, the book was really good. It was like one of the very few books that I could read like in one sitting, maybe because I was traveling, but the book was also very captivating and I really enjoyed the book. Um, it was kind of depressive at the end
Mm-mm,
when how the story unfolded, but the whole plot was really, really nice. I really enjoyed the book.
yeah. Just wanted to ask you a question is why did you think to follow us along with this book? Because we have been doing this one book a week thing for some times now, and sounds like this book kind of intrigued your interest. Maybe a 2 cents from your side.
Yeah, actually, I've been following you guys since like the first week, and I have been listening to all of your podcasts, and I really found it interesting.
Hmm.
And now that I have a short vacation and I thought like why not? Because I really love reading books and it was kind of lost for a few years, like for 3 years or so I had not read a lot of books because I was busy with things and now like the idea of reading a book one day and the book is actually not very long. It's
Mm-mm.
like maximum of 200 pages and I think it's a really good habit and I really just wanted to join for
Thank
this
you very
week.
much. Thank you very much for listening to our this whatever we call it. It's not exactly a podcast, probably too short for one, but still joining our mission to read one book a week for this whole year. And yeah, we are very glad to know that at least there's somebody who's listening to us, and it's not just two guys shouting into the well. There's an empty well, and we're just not shouting there, and somebody is feeling motivated enough to pick up their own book and follow us along. So hopefully you'll follow us along for more books, and maybe you will want to come back again and speak with us about it.
Yes,
And now,
definitely.
so you have been following us for some time. You know the ritual of this whole series, right? The most important part
Yes.
is that Anup gives a briefing of how the book went, a bit of a plot summary. So Anup, please.
Um, sure. Okay. The fact is, like, Salina was one of the people who was complaining that I am spoiling the book all the time, So today I can do it without bad feeling,
Mm,
because she read the book actually. So,
yeah, I know there are other people also who complain about it, but for them, I always say, read the book at the start of the week, and then you don't have to complain about it at the end when Anup reviews it. So there's a very easy solution to everything.
okay, yeah. So let's start. Uh, we have we have two people in the book, like Kino and Juana or Juana, I don't know. Juana, I think, right? And their little child, Coyotito,
Mm,
and they're having a nice time. Then a scorpion bites the little baby, and then they're desperate, so they are going for the doctor, and the doctor won't treat them because they don't have money. So they need to somehow come up with a solution, right? what they do is they go with the boat to hunt for pearls, right? And then Kino, he finds a big pearl,
mm,
like one that humans have never seen, I think, because they kind of called it like the Great Pearl or something like that, right? So it deals about the pearl, right? How the pearl changes Kino and other people throughout the story, right? And yeah, in the end, it leads. I won't tell how, but it leads to the event that the baby dies, right? The Koichito dies, right?
mm.
Right. So yeah, come, let's leave it by that.
Yeah, it was indeed a very tragic story, I would have to say. Uh, at least at the start, I feel there was a lot of commentary about how society structures themselves among the oppressed and the oppressors, and how uh, Kino is not able to find a good value for the pearl. There are people chasing after him and stuffs like that. And later on, they bring this tragic part where the baby dies, and then all his effort is in vain because throughout the whole book, it has been kind of stressed that this is the whole goal of it, that he's saving the pearl for his baby for the future, and now he has fought against the world, and now he's not able to uh, reap the rewards of it. So, in a sense, it was kind of tragic. I would say probably it is a bit of a quite a used trope, so I was kind of expecting that, not going to lie. Uh, but yeah, that was quite sad book. This book kind of reminded me of one famous Nepali movie. Do you know Pasupati Prasad?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that kind of similar to that, right? Pasupati Prasad, this the
Yeah,
guy.
you're right, you're right, you're right.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
I have thought of another movie. For me, it was more of Lord of the Rings, right? So where you
okay.
have where you have an object, right? Mm, jewelry, right?
Mm-hmm,
And like a pearl is kind of like a jewelry, right? And
mm-hmm,
it's slow by slow starts like influencing the person, right? You
mm-hmm,
know what I mean?
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Actually, I've spoken to it about Anup like before
mm-hmm,
this meeting, and actually I did some of the research. Like,
mm-hmm,
is it like Lord of the Rings? Like, I also found it like it's similar to Lord of the Rings, and what I found was like Lord of the Rings was written between 1937 to
mm-hmm,
1949, and the book was written in 1947. So
mm-hmm.
like it was written in almost like the same time. So
Mm.
Probably.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. For me, I didn't think the pearl was the reason that was corrupting our characters, to be honest. I think the pearl gave so much of value and it meant so much that he was just being protective of it like it was his own baby, and that he 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 was not really. I know throughout the book the characters they keep commenting that yeah, this is evil, this is turning bringing bad luck for you, but I don't think that is necessarily what is happening to our main character. It's like his humanity is still there because he feels guilty after killing the person. He's scared. He's scared of the other people who are chasing him, but still he's willing to fight for the pearl. And I think, in a sense, the pearl kind of brings back an empowerment scenario for him. That he feels that he has security enough that he can combat against all the oppressors that are oppressing him, which would otherwise be not possible for him because he has no means of earning money. So he doesn't have any means of value that he can trade to feed himself. So every time he's in this hand-to-mouth situation, underfed and with all those troubles, but having this pearl almost like a security blanket gives him the confidence to feel like, okay, I have something to fight for, and then I'm going to fight for it. And probably I think that is the main part of this whole dynamics of oppressor and the oppressed class, is that uh, normally one of the easiest way of oppressing someone is to make sure their life is only focused around being able to feed themselves and not necessarily have the avenue to expand their horizon of production or something like that, right? Think about in America, slaves were not allowed to even do arts because that would increase the horizon. They would have some additional value to provide, and the only way to have them keep producing their value would be by working in the exact place where the masters asked them to work, which is unlike in our scenario where now this guy has this pearl which is going to bring him riches and change his fortunes altogether, and it is he's kind of fighting for it. So I just tried to view it from a different angle, and for me I thought it was quite interesting as well.
Yes, yes, definitely. I think like the way you looked at it is also it's also a really different perspective because when I was reading the book, most of the people who perceived it, I saw it like it was greed because the pearl he found something that was really precious and he really wanted to protect it and then he wanted more because in the story, like he is offered a certain amount of money for the pearl, but he wanted more. And
Mm,
he wanted to just reach out to other people who could give him more because he thought the value of the pearl was more. And like you said, it is a very sad reality that most poor people like have to fight for really basic needs, and the pearl was like a hope for his family. So
yeah. I like this analogy is that I was really mad in that scene where he goes to sell the pearl and this guy is not offering him good value for it, right? It's they're working like a cartel and everybody is like, yeah, no, we're not going to pay more than this certain value. And this reminds me of this street vendors. Normally, we go to a department store and we don't haggle with the person there, but whenever we go to a street vendor, then we feel comfortable to haggle with them. And I think it's a bit of a parallel that you know that the person is uh, lower in means, so we feel we have the chips to be able to haggle with them. And that comes in, that was an exact parallel in this scenario where because this guy they know that he doesn't have so much wealth in him that they can haggle with him and probably try to rip him off with whatever the value is. I don't think the value is as high as the character perceives of $50,000, but probably it's not as low as the $500 that was offered as well. And yeah, on a how
Maybe maybe even the 50,000 is a bad estimate, because these people like they don't know the value of the pearl right in the
exactly.
first place. So yeah. Mm.
Exactly. And I really like how our main character, I think it's our main character who says that when somebody asks how do you know the value of this, and he says if I only go to one place, then I don't exactly know the value of it, and he has to go to other places as well. And that's a really educational aspect for me at least, is that you don't really know your worth until you compare it with somewhere else, and that was quite interesting as well. And I see I feel for some reason all the characters around our main character is trying to vilify him for trying to find the get the most out of the pearl. And I know the plots didn't work out as it was supposed to be, but if it was indeed a very fair society, then he would have gotten the whole value of the pearl, and he would not have to languish with his loss, and rather can just cash in on the value, be able to treat his child, buy new clothes, get married, and then educate his son. And the thing that I really liked is how he's focused on educating his child so that he can have a brighter future. And it's not necessarily greed to want to educate your child, right? For the long term thinking. So the guy is indeed quite wise and he wants to use it for good. It's I would not say it's greed in the pure sense of greediness, but rather a way, a means of long term thinking to get something that has been deprived of him for a very, very long time.
yes.
What other aspects did you find quite interesting? Maybe Selena, you can start.
Yeah. So what I also found interesting was the part where they actually go to a doctor
Hmm.
when the baby is stung by the scorpio, and the doctor just sends him away at first because the doctor only treats people with money.
Mm,
And that actually struck me really hard because in most of the places we can still see that it is how it is, like how it was in the book. And as soon as like the doctor knows, like, okay, the guy has the pearl, he wants to go and treat the person. So doctor is also someone like it's I think like it is I found like most of the characters were like symbols, like I
mm,
could also we could also symbolize the whole story. Like, so I could symbolize the doctor as rich, greedy person
mm,
who, like a face of a society, loves that part of the society which wants to just get more out of the riches and just neglect the poor. And I think that was one part. Like, I could actually see that one. And what I found also interesting was that the main character had something going on in his head. Like
mm,
when people were approaching him, he could hear something, a
mm,
music, and that I found really interesting. Like how the writer had written, like
mm,
there is like an evil music going on in his
mm,
head,
mm,
and it's I think it's also a kind of instinct that a person has. Like he has something precious, and there are people who are trying to steal that away.
mm,
So that was also really interesting
It was
part.
interesting, right? Like I found it too. Like for a person who was not educated at all, his intuition was really good. In a lot of cases, I found, right?
mm,
So you saw other people who would say like, yeah, take the 15,000 like 1,500 pesos or something,
mm.
but he wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
So that that was quite interesting. Also, what I found interesting was there are like a lot of situations where the whole town came with them, right, to
Yes.
see what happened, and I don't know, that gave me a weird vibe. Like, why are these
Mm,
people coming with him? Kind of vibe,
mm. I think I kind of understand that. I wouldn't say it was the whole town, but rather his community where he was living, right? Because uh,
Yeah.
as far as that, because he's a
Mhm.
poor guy in his community, and his community themselves are quite poor. So uh, I had just looked at the synopsis of this book, and then I found that this book was set in New Mexico or somewhere like that, right? And the character is an Indian character who would be like the Native American character, and historically they are known to live in communities. So I would imagine that it was the community of the Native Americans who were visiting the town that was settled by European Americans, and then the Native Americans who are marginalized and they were done so forcibly uh, want to see if this pearl will the guy actually get a fair trade for the pearl, because if you know a bit of history, then Native Americans were unfairly uh, uh, stripped of their land and their belongings by through means of political coercion and not necessarily military conquest. There was a part of military conquest, but they were politically coerced at that time, and I think this was kind of like a parallel that uh, this small community of people, they don't really expect this guy to get as much value for the pearl as possible, so they just want to see, okay, what would be the extent that he will be able to get the value for it. The most interesting part for me is uh, the character could not get the value for the pearl within his community, and he has to sell it outside of his community. And uh, it kind of shows the arbitrariness of value that we provide to stuffs around around our life. And the pearl, seemingly nothing comes out of the river, they find it there, and then uh, he goes around trying to get a bid for it. People offer different kind of values, and at the end he's unable to get the fair price, and he then sends it back to the river. So at the end, turns out it has no value at all. It was all what we assigned it to be, and that part, from that angle as well, it was quite interesting to me that the pearl, which would not be of value in a probably a Native American community, is of value to a different community, and when there is no real reimbursement for it, then it again comes back with no value at all.
Sorry, the last part I didn't get. Like, what do you mean exactly with no value?
Yeah, I mean the pearl. So the guy
Mm,
had to go to the city, this I think the central city, to
mm,
redeem the value of it. That is
mm,
probably get $10,000 or $50,000
mm,
for it, right? But he had to
yeah.
go there because nobody in his community can use it as something of value there, right?
Mm, mm,
So,
mm,
you know, at the end of the day, the value for the pearl was defined by whoever is going to assign the value for it. It was not carved in the stone, or it didn't have any inherent value, and it was always relative. And it
mm,
started with somebody not having, sorry, the community not giving so much of a value, probably city people giving more value, but at the
mm.
end, in the river, it ended up having no value again at all.
Ah, that's totally what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's something I've been thinking about, like you said, like about your perspective, like
Hmm.
mm, Kino, he's like the optimist. He did not think much about, like, you see it in a different perspective, but just like a scene came into my mind where he becomes like violent, like
Mm,
his wife has seen it,
mm,
there is like a combat between him and the wife, like,
yeah,
and then there is a part where he says, "I am the man,"
yeah,
and I think that was like the part where I was really disturbed. Like,
mm,
also when also like the part where he could not get the value for his pearl and he has to go somewhere else.
mm,
Like this part, like it just came into my mind. Like after that, like he had to, his wife just wanted to throw it away
yeah,
after he was attacked. And I feel like maybe like women are, no, I don't want to like generalize, but still me, like when I look from the perspective of his wife, like it is destroying the family. They're like, whatever they had like was all almost at the verge of losing
mm,
because of the pearl. And she was kind of trying to protect what she has already, and the man was trying to like say, no, okay, I am the man,
mm.
let's just go and find the value, like get the value of the pearl that we have. So it just struck my mind just right now, so just wanted to
Yeah,
say.
exactly, exactly. That was also quite interesting to me how this story deals with the aspect of being a man, right?
Yeah.
You would imagine a man would be someone who would be protecting the family and trying to get the most out of the family, but he's not able to do it, and still he has to claim that he's a man. And I think that's because why he has to claim he's a man, because if he was successful in providing for his family, then he would not have to do so much, right? And yeah, that was one part of it also, quite how I found it interesting. It dealt with it, and I think it also assigns the value that every member of the family has for his wife. The family and its cohesiveness was of more value than for the guy who was more into materialistic value, and he thought of it in the relative, I would say, subjective social measures, rather than the wife who thought it in terms of happiness to the family. Because at the end, if you think before I would assume before the stinging of the scorpion, they had a pretty decent, happy family with their ups and downs. But now, without their child, they would probably have a very tragic life. Maybe you have. Do you have anything in your mind? I know you might on this topic.
No, no, not really. I mean, in a way, I can also understand Kino, right?
Mm,
He sees a way out. I think it is in everybody of us. Like, if we find a chance, like if we find a chance of certain wealth, I think we also start getting getting different, right? Like we
mm,
also change. I feel so. For him, like he started like painting this picture in his mind, right? That his son would go to school, that his wife would be in a bride dress and everything, right? And
mm,
he would understand like why are all of the people not getting it or
mm,
not trying to see it, right? So in a way, I feel um, while it's really unfortunate that he did strike his wife,
mm,
I also can see why he did that, right?
mm,
Because he was, yeah, he actually wanted like this wealth,
mm,
already, right? Um, Certainly he changed like that.
mm,
In that point, I also agree with you guys. Like, maybe he shouldn't, maybe he shouldn't have changed. But I think like this kind of things, slow by slow, like if you have
mm,
power or money, like you slow by slow start like changing, whether you want it or not.
mm,
Um, so that part was for me like where I could start seeing that he is undergoing a certain change.
mm, mm,
Mm.
Like in Lord of the Rings with Gollum, right? So slow by slow, it starts being getting eaten by the ring, right? So
yeah.
slow by slow.
But I think in Lord of the Rings, it's a more idea of power corrupting the character rather than the wealth. Because in our case, it's not so much the power, but rather the future potential of the wealth he's going to have that's corrupting the main character.
I mean, it's not exclusive, right? Like with wealth, you also get power. And I mean, in case of Kino, you could see him imagining himself with a rifle and everything, right?
Mm, yeah,
So
yeah, true.
But I think with the rifle, he started thinking about the rifle when he got attacked. Like he
no,
felt.
it was also before, right? Like in the beginning, where he would say like, I also want a rifle or something like that. I think it didn't came up in the end, right?
Mhm. I cannot exactly remember when it was, but I think like he with rifle he wanted to give like protection or
Yeah. For
like
mm, for me,
um,
I also felt that the guy not necessarily changed because of the pearl, but rather that it was the society that kept forcing him to change and the inequality in the society. For example, he gets really mad when he has to interact with the doctor again, and then he's always victimized by these people who are trying to pick on him. There are people who are not providing him fair value, and I mean, if you if on every step of the way you keep being undermined, then it's bound to kind of crack you somewhere, right? It's going to break the dam of your patience, and you would
Mm.
feel that you need to use force and be able to protect. And probably it was a consequence of his circumstances where he's he's being put down by the society, and he takes it out on his wife, who is trying to also put him down, or at least trying to tell him that it's okay, that you don't really have to be ambitious and have to fight the society. And he feels kind of how do I don't know the right word, but kind of stymied by his wife, that she's preventing him from being able to get something, at least be able to fight the society in equal terms, the resources to fight the society in equal terms. I think he sees in the way his wife was uh, trying preventing him, that she's trying to uh, she's satisfied with the current situation of oppression, and he's probably dissatisfied with it. I think in a lot of societies, if you see once a group of people I wouldn't go to an individual, but once a group of people feel they have been oppressed too much, then they always rise up, and often in violent means. And uh, I think this was kind of a representation of it. He's a native Indian guy who's being oppressed by the society. In his case, probably the his own tribesmen, but and he wants to fight back, and he wants to say that, you know, I play in equal term, because if you look at it, he's not. I mean, when we read his thoughts, he's not bad necessarily. His reasons are not bad, and he's been victimized, and when you have been in this cycle of victimizing, when you are being recurrently victimized, and you feel like I have to fight back against it, otherwise I'm going to uh, not be able to handle it anymore.
In this, I would like to say something like, mm, yeah, it is really sad. Like, if everything had worked out like really smoothly, if he could just get the right value of the pearl, the whole thing would not happen.
Mm,
But the real world is like unfair. You don't get everything. Everything is not fair. So he did not get it. He saw the hurdles, and he had to be that way. But about his wife, like, I don't think like she wanted to be oppressed.
mm,
She was just trying to protect the family from further damage, because she saw that there is threat. Like, Kino
mm,
would could have been killed in that
yeah,
combat in that night, and she just wanted to protect him and the family.
yeah,
She was already like I said before, she wanted just to protect what is there.
mm,
And the pearl was like a hope. And
yeah,
Kino, somehow I can understand, like, he saw that there are so many threats around him.
mm,
His only hope could be taken away.
mm,
And he was getting more and more defensive. He was getting more and more. I would say most of the things were also in his mind. Like, he could hear the evil voices.
mm,
He could feel something. It is a kind of intuition, but also like a kind of, when you think too much about something,
mm,
like, you kind of become paranoid about
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like, yeah, things are happening, although it is in reality not happening, like, you
mm,
know. And I felt like when he actually raised his hand against his wife, like, I felt like, okay, he's losing himself.
mm,
He's losing a lot of, you know. So somehow, like, it is a lot about, like, not just greed, poverty, but also about how something, a sudden change, can affect you.
mm,
Changes are important, and like Arnab said, like, maybe the change should not have happened, but it happened.
mm,
And it would happen if you get something. It was like a ray of hope, uh, a sunlight in darkness for him, right? Like,
mm,
so I can completely understand what happened with Kino, but also the perspective of his wife, and also his brother was also warning
yeah,
Kino like all the time, you know.
yeah.
So yeah.
Mm. That's quite interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. That's another way to look at it. That you don't always look from the external, but look at within the family. And he's crumbling inside the family. He's trying to fight around the world. So yeah, it doesn't look like a win-win situation for me. It's quite yeah, interesting take. I would agree with you. So, do you guys have any final thoughts about this book? How did you like it? How would you rate this? Would you recommend this to anyone? Maybe Anup, you have been quiet for some time. I'm sure
Um,
there's a separate group of fans for
hmm,
you, and they want to hear your voice every time.
sure, sure. So look, like after Mezzanine, like I could read anything, right? So, so this was like really good in that sense, like it is like it was something like after you have been hungry for so long, you can eat
Mm,
everything and you feel like, oh my God, this food is
mm,
tasty, right? So the
mm,
same was with this book, so as you said, like during this week, I don't know, man, I don't get this book, I was like, what, really, because I was still in that mezzanine spot, right?
mm,
No, I found it actually quite nice. Yeah,
Selena,
lot of messages, lot of messages. But we talked about all those messages, right? So yeah,
mm,
sorry, I interrupted you.
that's okay. Selena, how about you? How did you like it?
As I said, like it was really good. The book is really, really interesting, and I think I would recommend it to my friends or like people who like to read books, or even to my sister, because I think the writing is really, really, really readable. Like it's not like some of the difficult books that I've read.
Mm-mm,
The writing is really simple, and the plot is also very interesting. Like I
mm-mm.
would recommend it.
Mm-mm. Yep. From my point of view, I found it quite interesting. During the week, I was not so much sure about the stylistic aspect of writing, right? I know you didn't find Mezzanine so good, but I found the stylistic aspect of it quite interesting. In this book, everything's quite straightforward. It says, but the more I read into it, and I would say the later the book is like a slow burn, right? It starts slowly and towards as you go towards the end it becomes more and more interesting and the more and more fascinating the characters turn out to be, and that is what I found that you have to plow through a bit of in the start because not so much happens and still there's the language is quite simple, it's not very flowery, and it has to capture your attention, but once you are into it and start the wheels start to turn, then it becomes really really interesting. And I found the themes were more and more complex as it went on, and I mean I could see how the loss of the child would make it something like a, I would say the loss of the pearl will make it something like a interesting ending to it, because at the end they came up with nothing at all, and that was something that I found quite fascinating.
Mm.
So, with about a fiction about value for this week, and on what do you recommend for next week?
I thought of something different this time. We have been reading novels up to
Mm-mm,
this point, right? So I also want to read hmm, some textbooks, like in German they say Sachbuch,
mm-mm,
right? So for the next week, I would like to recommend the book called Freakonomics. It's
okay,
about economics in a freaky kind of way, based on the title. I don't
okay. You have not read it so far?
I have read like 10 pages or something.
Okay. Freakonomics.
Mm.
This is by Stefan J. Dubner, right? And
Yep.
Steven Levitt.
Mm.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So for next week, we're going to read about Freakonomics, and Selena, you can join us as always reading the book. And very, very thank you for joining us today. Your insights was really interesting. I mean, some of the points that you raised, me and Anup would never have been able to come up with. So I really appreciate the variety that you have
Mm.
brought, and you're always welcome next times when you want to join us in this whatever this is that you want to call it.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Selena.
I will try to read the Freakonomics, but like on said, it's like a Zach book. Like
Mm,
I don't know. I will try to read it because
I am I'm
it's quite long.
I'm contractually obligated to read it. Anup is contractually obligated to read it, but probably not so much for you.
Yeah, if I'm able to read it, like I'm traveling again next week, so maybe I will
Hmm,
be able to read it till the end. And I'm really happy. I was really happy to be here, and thank you for having me. It
hmm.
was really fun.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Anup. Thank you very much, Salina.
Thank you.
For next week, we'll be reading Freakonomics, and we will again speak with you next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and hope to see you again next week.